Welcome to my young food forest.
What if I told you that plants are secretly feeding each other underground, sharing nutrients, growing faster, and building healthier soil?
And some gardeners
have no idea this is actually happening. And once you understand this concept, not only does your
mind frame
of gardening change, but your entire garden changes too. When I first started gardening, to plant a fruit tree, I would pop it in the ground. Either I would put some mulch around it or I'd just leave grass and I'd whippersnip around it, but this wasn't the best way. In this video, I'm going to show you what plant guilds are, how plants communicate and share nutrients, how nitrogen fixers literally fertilize your soil free, and one powerful technique called chop and drop that releases plant hormones and sugars back into the soil ecosystem. By the end of this video, you'll understand how to design a garden that almost runs itself. Let's look at this plant guild. This is a grapefruit tree in the middle. Down here we have oregano as a plant cover. This I use lots in my cooking, but it's also a fantastic ground cover, like a living mulch, retains the moisture and feeds the soil. The back of me, if I lift my arm down and move for a second, you can just see there's some basil, sweet basil planted there. Now that's more of an annual, that kind of dies off in the winter. I'll plant something else in its place, maybe some flowers. And you can see some blue eyes over there, which is also a nitrogen fixer and a living mulch. And to the back again, we've got a living mulch and a fantastic chop and drop plant that acts as a fertilizer food for the main tree. A guild is essentially a variety of plant support species around the main tree, which can help promote its growth as they live in a symbiotic relationship. Some of these are chop and drop trees specifically to use as mulch to feed my main tree. Some of these encourage bees, like this Tulsi basil, also fantastic in tea. And by having all this vegetation around the tree, it helps suppress weeds and retain moisture so that the sun isn't getting in here, drying out. It's kind of like a living mulch. But now has come the time to prune this back a bit. Before we come into winter, we've had a lot of rain. So yeah, let's do it. Got some comfrey in here too. Here it is down here. Comfrey's fantastic. This is comfrey. Its purpose is a nutrient accumulator. It has very deep roots, and so it draws nutrients up. Comfrey's deep tap roots actually mine important minerals like phosphorus and calcium, and then it draws them up and stores them in the leaves. And then when you chop and drop them, and by chop and drop I mean this, as they decompose, our main tree ends up getting the nutrients as this decomposes into the soil, and then therefore nutrients that were deep down become available to our main tree. Note, some people are allergic to comfrey. I am one of those. I think it's about 5 to 8% of people, and my entire hands break out in blisters, like 3rd-degree burns. So you're probably not going to be allergic to it, but just be aware. Comfrey is also fantastic to add to your compost as a compost activator, or you can even make teas out of it. You get a heap of this comfrey, cut it off, steep it in water for a few days, get super stinky, but then use the water on your plants. You need to water that down, it'll be very strong. But yeah, there you go. When you're chopping and dropping, you want to put the bigger tree parts, the thicker stems or trunks, on the bottom, and then cover it with the thinner branches to encourage it to break down by the fungi. And if it was just sitting on top, it wouldn't get a chance where all the moisture is and for the fungus to grow and start to break it down. If it's sitting on top, the air's getting to it, and it's kind of just drying out, not allowing that fungus to break it down. You also might want to try and remember the rule of never take more than 1/3 of the tree. You can risk it on things that you don't care so much about losing, but on plants you want to keep, be careful not to trim away too much. This guild has done its job over spring and summer, and I've chopped and dropped this a few times already. But as we move into autumn, sun is really important, and I want my main trees to start to get a bit more sun. Any plants with small flowers as well, a bit like the Tulsi basil, it's got small enough flowers. It actually encourages parasitic wasps and beneficial insects that are going to help with pest reduction. Wasps or lady beetles.
They eat aphids. These flowers here are amazing. Insects absolutely love them. This is actually a fennel plant, so you can eat the bulb, or like I have, just let it go to seed and you'll get fennel seeds and these tiny beautiful flowers that insects loves. Here's some that are turning to seed.
Now as I chop these plants down, the root systems are communicating. So there's a sort of signal that gets sent by the plants I'm chopping down and pumps hormones into the ground, which actually makes my main tree grow better. It gives it hormones as well and says, oh, we're getting attacked, we need to pump more hormones, let's grow, let's grow, let's grow.
The real magic of plant guilds happens underground. Soil isn't just dirt, it's a living ecosystem called the soil food web. Inside healthy soil, there's bacteria, fungi, protozoa, nematodes, worms, microarthropods, and these organisms break down organic matter and cycle nutrients. One of the most important players in the system is fungi. Fungi form massive underground networks called mycorrhizal. These fungal threads attach to plant roots and expand their reach through the soil. The plant provides the fungi with sugars from photosynthesis, and the fungi, in return of the favour, deliver nutrients, minerals and water to the plant. Sometimes fungi even connect multiple plants together, which means that plants can literally share resources underground. I've planted some lemongrass around my mandarin tree, but just look how much it's taken over. I'm just going to chop and drop this down and give the mandarin some more sunlight.
And here's another example of a guild. So we have Tulsi basil, fantastic for these tiny flowers which attract the bees. It's also very strong smelling, so it can put off some predatory bugs that like to eat your plants. We have a curry plant, which again is strong smelling, deters pests, but I also chop and drop this. As you can see, I've chopped and dropped all of this and I've just laid it in place. As that decomposes and rots down, it's going to feed my main plant. We also have fennel, some turmeric, which is fantastic as a mulch, fantastic for your health. So I don't want to put this in my garden space. I don't want to sacrifice beautiful growing space. Instead, I just pop it in around my fruit trees and I can harvest it, have plenty of it to harvest all through the year, as well as just chop and drop it and feed it back to the main plant. We also have some smaller little things. You can't see these very well on the video, but I've had some flowers in here, just annual flowers, cosmos, and they're all died off now, so they'll go back to feed the main plant too. A plant guild is basically a small ecosystem. Now there's many different jobs that these plants below actually do. So we have nitrogen fixers, we have the job of attracting beneficial insects and bees, like pollinators. Beneficial insects will be pest predators. Another one of their jobs is to build soil. To build soil, they're going to be providing mulch, whether that be through chopping and dropping or a living mulch. There's also the job of sacrificial plants, which may be a plant that attracts pests. And for instance, we're willing to sacrifice that one. For instance, say you've planted a nasturtium, the predator will attack the nasturtium and leave your main plant alone. We have nutrient accumulators like comfrey, strong smelling plants like this curry plant to deter pests. This is another one of my young fruit trees, a mandarin tree. Here we have again some beautiful fennel planted.
This is starting to go to seed now, and I don't even plant this stuff. It just self-seeds now with these tiny little seeds. They fall down, and every year it's just growing back. It's fantastic for pollinators, as we've discussed, beneficial insects. There is hibiscus. That's a small hibiscus. There is fennel. There's lemongrass that's just being chopped and dropped. And I also plant some annuals in here, like sunflowers or other flowers that are in season. This is a young nectarine plant, and around it I have things like cranberry hibiscus and pigeon pea. This is a young pigeon pea. Here's some that I've cut already, and they'll continue to grow and cut. There's basil in here, there's Tulsi basil, and a couple of herbs as well. One of the most powerful plants you can plant in your plant guild is a nitrogen fixer. Plants like clover, legumes, acacias, pigeon pea. This is the pigeon pea, remember? These plants host bacteria in their roots. Those bacteria pull nitrogen from the atmosphere, convert it into forms that plants can use. It means these plants are literally fertilizing the soil, especially when you chop and drop them. When you chop it and the root system shrinks, because that's what happens when you have a plant, you've got the top canopy, and usually underneath, under the ground, the roots mirror the system of the top canopy, but underground. So when you chop a tree back, its root system also shrinks back. Therefore, those little nitrogen nodes pop off into the soil. What I just spoke to you about chop and drop, here's some Tulsi basil that was cut down and laid in place as a chop and drop mulch. Now, when you leave the base of the plants in the soil, the roots in the soil, it does a powerful thing. One, it feeds the soil. The plant matter becomes organic mulch for microbes, release sugars into the soil. So when the plants are cut back, the roots release carbohydrates that feed the soil organisms. 3, it triggers hormones to be released that encourage plants to grow. Cutting plants can stimulate hormones that encourage regrowth, microbial activity. So instead of chopping things away and removing them, essentially removing nutrients from the system, we're just constantly cycling those nutrients back into the system. Designing a plant guild is simpler than it sounds. 1, start with a main plant or a fruit tree like this mango tree. 2, put some nitrogen fixers in, like the pigeon pea that I showed you, or clovers. 3, put a pollinator plant like this Tulsi basil you can see. 4, put ground covers like oregano or even these garlic chives. 5, put dynamic accumulators like the comfrey I showed you. And 6, pest repellent and sacrificial plants. And so now I've chopped all my guilds down ready for winter time. If you like this episode, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And until next time, I love you guys. Stay safe and happy.